doing street view down the main road. I'm like, okay, cool. It's on both sides of the property of the road. And then kind of goes back. And I was like, what? This is expansive. And we realized there's 18 buildings here, like way bigger footprint than anything we had dealt with before.
What is up? Matt Faircloth here. I appreciate you. I just want to start it out with gratitude. We've got a very special Chats with Matt coming up here. We got a special guest. You guys all know him. You guys all love him. Justin Fraser's coming in. We're going to talk a bit about a refinance that we completed recently. And we're going to talk about what value-add real estate is really all about. Just what value-add real estate, like how you do value-add deals. We bought a property and we pretty much doubled value. We bought it for $18 million and it valued in at $36 million after the work that Justin and his team did. So we're going to go line by line through the business plan, show you guys some before and after pictures, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Now, I'm going to be bringing in somebody here who I just would not be able to do much of what I'd just be just a guy talking to you on YouTube without much success behind me without this guy, because he's really implemented a lot of the success we have at DeRosa Group. I call him Captain because he's the captain of the ship in a lot of ways, not Captain America. But he's he's more like really drives the bus that we're on. I have zany, wacky ideas and he tells me no a lot of the time, rightfully so. He is the driver of a lot of the success we have at DeRosa Group. And so I'm going to bring him in now. And you guys all know him. You guys all love him. This is the Justin Fraser. Here he is, guys. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's happening?
Hi. What you doing? Me and Justin and Hervé Francois and the rest of our team, we're all just kind of hanging out, not expecting much to show up. And lo and behold, we get a deal from my guy, Hervé, who is our acquisitions magnet. He attracts deals to DeRosa. He is the hunter for the DeRosa team. And so he gets a phone call about a large apartment building, 336 units. We didn't own anything close to that. Anything with a unit count that started with a 3, we did not own at the time. And this property came on the market. It had already been under contract before with another buyer. They had to let him go and they decided they didn't want to do the deal anymore or whatever. And so the seller put it back on the market for less. They needed to move this property. This deal shows up, 336 units, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We had already been chasing that market, for a lot of good reasons. This deal shows up and before you know it, we're like, I think we got a winner here. So Justin, tell us more about the deal and about that initial phone call and about what you thought of this deal when you first saw it.
Well, we do street view, right? So literally I remember Hervé was on the phone with me. He's like, hey, Winston-Salem, let me pull it up. And so we're doing street view down the main road. I'm like, okay, cool. It's on both sides of the property of the road. And then kind of goes back. And I was like, what? This is expansive. And we realized there's 18 buildings here, like way bigger footprint than anything we had dealt with before. And realized like, oh, there's potential here, but there's also a lot of risk and could be a lot of challenges just in the sheer size and magnitude of a property. We started looking online, started to try to, call our contacts, try to understand, tell me about this property, get a sense of what is it like, right? What's going on down there? But you really don't get that sense until you actually get there, right, Matt? So we had to go visit for the very first time.
Yep.
And I think we made a YouTube video on our way down there. That's one of our top rated YouTube videos.
The reason why we drove, and we normally would fly to North Carolina, but we couldn't because I think there was a point where you couldn't fly. And then if you did fly, it was really a concern.
We had a big challenge on our plate from then going down there, visiting. Do you remember the very first night we came in at night?
I remember being a little scared in that video. Like we're driving around like, man, what is going on at this apartment building? We're buying this place. Are you serious? It's dark. It felt like scary and not safe, Yeah.
Yeah, we really did not know like what to expect. We didn't know, we were getting into the largest deal we'd ever done. And we felt like the market was right. We felt like the business plan was right. And really we saw that the rents here were not what the market was. The owner had bought it at a low enough price that he didn't have to push rent. So he didn't really care about getting market rent as long as the people that he had in there were paying. It doesn't matter what they're paying, really. He's making a ton of money. There was a perfect kind of situation where the market was growing, the property was not growing within the market, so that's lagging behind. We saw an opportunity. We thought maybe conservatively we had about $200+ of rent growth, and that was kind of maybe $250 is what we were thinking. And so we said, this is a good opportunity. And then from then on, it was paranoia and fear all the way to close.
Yeah. No, I remember we almost backed out of the deal like 4 or 5 times. We had to constantly talk a few of our team members off the ledge to say, hey, it's going to be okay. And when we were under contract, there was a shooting at the property. And I'm like, well, yet another reason to back out.
It was rough. There was, when we went for due diligence, I called a local pizza place to get pizza delivered for the whole team. And they said, we don't deliver there.
Oh, that's yeah. Good luck with that.
And that was the day I was like, oh boy, if the pizza place doesn't come out here, what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah,
we had other potential partners come and walk it and say that they were not interested because there was some risk there. So maybe we were crazy, but we really, really believed in the fundamentals. Like we believed North Carolina, Winston-Salem, great place to be. We believed that this property was well positioned within the city, that, there's the whole neighborhood behind it. That's where the flippers are. That people are turning old houses into new houses, and millennials and moving in and all that. Like there's good activity sort of all around it. This property had received no love. So we knew that we were going to have to come in with a heavy budget. I mean, I think my CapEx budget going in was $4.5 million, right? We bought this for $18.5 million. And I said, you guys thought I was nuts. And I said,
I remember, and we fought about that. I remember looking at that and going, Justin, where are you going to spend $12,000 a unit? And how would we ever get that back? We're going to be so far upside down. And the people that were friends of ours that flew down there to go look at it, maybe to be a part of the project, looked at that and you're like, nah, you guys are never going to get your money back on this thing. And your rents are always going to be low because they're like, it was perceived to be a rough property in a rough neighborhood, which is not a rough neighborhood, but it was perceived to be that way. It's actually in a good neighborhood.
It was a good neighborhood. If you look that way, we don't look that way. Okay. So we just look that way at the good neighborhood, right?
On the edge. There was a dilapidated apartment building. Right? There was a dilapidated apartment building we didn't own. Yeah. Right. There was up on this hill. Like there's the Diamond Ridge. We can say the name Diamond Ridge here. And there's an apartment building that's up on this crest of a hill that we didn't own. And it had like the windows kicked out. It was like a vacant apartment building. And I remember looking at Diamond Ridge going like, do we get that too? Or do we just have to look at that sitting there and have people in that eyesore that we don't own staring at us every day? And that was the case. It didn't come with the property.
Man, we had a challenge. Even our property management company backed out. If you recall, Matt, we had a property management company that we had used at another place in North Carolina and had built a pretty good relationship with them. Thursday afternoon, somewhere in the middle of DD, they called and said, this is too much for us.
And I do a 5-year anniversary trip every 5 years. It was our 15-year anniversary down in Asheville, North Carolina. And I remember having that call with them backing out. And I mean, and Hervé's our short fuse guy. I was worried that day he was going to just put somebody in a headlock. I mean, but he was upset that they had gone down the road with us. Yep. We're going to manage it. We're going to manage it. And then like, well, I don't know. Yeah. And then they backed out. So it kind of left us holding the bag. And that was one of the reasons why we almost backed out, because I remember some of our team members were like, well, if they won't do it, maybe we should, like, they maybe are smarter than we are, and we should listen to them, that they don't think this is a good deal or a good thing for us to get involved in. Maybe we shouldn't either. Remember that? I mean, that was a real conversation.
All this to say is, you want to listen to the people on your team, but you also want to make sure you're listening to the right people. So it turns out this management company really pushing into the B+A space, and that's the new assets that they wanted to take on. This was not that. So this was falling outside of their risk portfolio. Does not mean it's not a good opportunity for a management company that knows what they're doing, or a group that knows what they're doing. This just was outside of what they wanted to do. So immediately, I've always got plan B, C, D, and E. We already had some contacts with other management groups. And so we started doing interviews and saying, hey, we're 5 weeks from closing here. Are you interested? What would the plan be? And so one group rose to the top, and that's who we hired, Carlisle, and they've been fantastic for us. They're a group that's based in Greensboro, that handles C-class properties, that understands this asset. They already had other properties in Winston-Salem. So then we bought it, right? So then we closed, popped the champagne, right? I always tell Matt, we can't pop the champagne just yet.
No, that's when Justin's work really starts, is once we close. A lot of other people's, their jobs are done once we've gotten it to closing, or they think that it is. Or that's when their heavy lifting is done. But Justin's heavy lifting and really the profitability of the deal begins once you buy.
So on the left, this was actually taken that very first night we drove the property, this photo on the left. There are 2 apartments in there. How would you feel walking home at night?
Going home every night,
your kids or whatever, and you're walking into that, no lights except for what's coming out of that little window there. Like, who wants to call that place home? This was incredibly unsafe. It's not something we ever want for our residents. We put a whole bunch of wall packs on. You can see we put lights on the front by the doors. First thing we wanted to do here was brighten the place up. That was built into the budget, and I think was our very first project here was light the place up, because our car full of 4 or 5 dudes driving around at 10 o'clock at night, we were feeling a little nervous. How do our residents feel? How do the residents we want to attract to this property feel? Right? Because the people that are there, they're maybe used to it, but maybe that's not what our business plan was counting on. Keeping those folks, we wanted to bring in sort of the next level folks that are making a little more, that can pay a little bit more rent. So we had to clean that up. So we did. Then you have safety concerns. Okay. These stairs are stairs that people have to walk up 2 to 3 floors to get into the units. That top photo, top left, you can see daylight there from the ground up. People were walking on that every day to get into their units. It's just not acceptable, right? So what we did was we came in, we reinforced, you see this photo in the middle, reinforced it. That was just a temporary support while we redid some concrete, and looks fantastic, but more importantly, safe. The lighting is one thing. This is another thing, right? And I think we spent about $125,000 on staircases around the property, just from all that rusting metal. Going in, you're generally faced with a decision point of, do I want to fix this for this year, or do I want to fix this for the next 2 years, or the long run, right? And all of these upfront fixes, we fix for the long run. Do it the right way, so that if we hold this asset for another 10, 20 years more, I'm not going back to do staircases again. This is handled and done, so we can move forward. It's done the right way. We had some other issues. There were these catwalks across the property. So you can see the top photo and what happened with it in the bottom photo. So we had to come in, all this metal. You can actually see the rebar coming through here. There were some big safety concerns that our lender pointed out. To basically come in and rebuild these platforms and catwalks and make sure they were structurally sound and would hold up to the weather and the elements moving forward. So that was another big project we did. Units are next, right? So we get the place safe.
Oh man!
Now we work on units. So top left is really a good representative photo of what we had walked into. You know, you've got old tile that are cracked, of course, dirty, right? We've got, in this case, some not so bad cabinet doors on the bottoms, at least. The uppers need to be fixed. You've got these funky track lights in here. You've got countertops that are really beat up. Old sink.
Well, the prior owner didn't want to pay the money for the stoves that are flush like that, because those are more expensive. That stove you're looking at right there in the new picture is more expensive than what you would typically put in a regular rental property where it's got the return on the back with the controls and stuff like that. So he would put in the ones with the backing. You would find those old stoves, in those units.
We got the new black appliances, some new LED lighting coming in. Of course, we're painting the whole unit. We are putting in new cabinet doors, new hardware. My favorite piece, which Matt doesn't love, is the big old farmhouse sink, because I like to do something that just sets these units apart from the other units in the market.
Look at the size of that sink. It's like the size of both the doors on both sides.
So when we started this, it was only like an extra $60 to put that sink in. Matt, in the most recent months here, the costs on these have skyrocketed. So I
want to know. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to know.
I had to dial back because we couldn't do it anymore. But most of our units have these, but we do have a nice spacious sink for them.
No, I get it. Everything's changed a bit. Yeah.
It went from like $60, $80 more to like $180 more. It became crazy.
Yeah.
But a nice to have. Consider on your renovations doing like a nice to have that people are going to be surprised by.
And
the bathroom is fairly simple, right? We resurface here. I think we actually replaced this surround, but on most cases we're resurfacing. New mirror, new lights, new vanity here. The total cost on this is not that much. Now in these units, you see these got these tile floors. We would fill in any cracks for the most part. And so we didn't actually have a huge flooring expense. So all in, this unit renovation probably cost us about $6,000, maybe even a little bit less, depending on the number of doors we had to replace. So we're being very efficient with our money, but it feels like a totally different property. Right. So I want to show you guys, top right photo was taken during our due diligence walk. Same photo taken after we painted the buildings. And then on the left is our in progress. They were working their way across. I love this photo because they just stopped right in the middle of the day wherever they were.
Lunch break right there. Yeah.
You see the dramatic difference that some landscaping makes. So here, this is great because you can see we actually cut back a lot of these trees that were kind of overhanging it, making kind of dark. We turned, the red that had been painted over multiple times, had been graffitied, right? We power washed the steps. So you see the green, funky steps, no more. Totally cleans up the appearance here. As you remember, we've taken care of a lot of the safety issues. We've taken care of a lot of the units are in progress. Now we've got to make this property more attractive for that next level resident. So let's up the appearance a little bit and let's turn this around.
The property at the bottom of that picture, like, okay, that looks safe. Yeah, it looks good. I'm proud to say I live there. And that's what you want, is good tenants to say they're proud to live at your property and then that they're going to stay there for a while.
Now this one, this pool, I should have pulled the photo. I think I got video of Matt like walking around down in this pool, but this pool was green, brown, filled with rocks and everything in between while we were in due diligence. The previous owner had not operated the pool and he had owned it for a few years. The previous owners before that had not operated the pool. So this pool had been down for years. There are 1 million tadpoles in that water. So it was a tadpole breeding ground. It smelled. It was not taken care of.
Tadpoles turn into frogs, which are also nasty.
It took us more than a year. We actually did not even get the pool open until almost the second year in. So it was about 20 months from the time we bought the property until we got to the photos on the right. It took us that long to bring it down, get the right crews in there, get the pumps all up. We spent about $85,000 bringing this pool back to. But now look at it. I mean, I love sitting over there.
It sounds like a lot of money, by the way, guys. $85,000, but in dollars per unit, Justin, that's like a couple $100 per unit.
Yeah.
And to make that investment per unit when your budget was $12,000 per unit, for a couple $100 to bring a pool back online, that's an easy addition to the budget. Somebody's going to come up that's a good tenant, that's a good paying tenant, that does a good job. That's saying, okay, this building looks safe, looks good. There is a pool I can bring my kid to, a couple playgrounds. Yeah, you know what? I'll bring my hard-earned money here and never missed a payment on rent my whole life. I'll live here.
That's a factor is when they're searching apartments.com, they only check, has a pool, right? So that's a limiting factor that would even limit the search in a lot of ways when people are looking at property. Yeah, last summer we got to have a big old pool party and launch the pool, and people are out there, and believe it or not, we're actually almost set to open it up again here. Mid-April we'll be opening our pool for the season here coming up. This is the last slide I have. I want to show you guys the playground. Bottom photo here is the lovely playground that was there. I don't know the age on that, 30 plus years. One busted little swing, bunch of safety hazards. This whole thing was rotten. There was also like a monkey bar thing that, if you pushed on it a little bit, the whole thing shook back and forth.
No. And that whole field turned into a swamp whenever it would rain. Every
time it rained, there was no drainage in that field remedied. So we spent a good amount of money for our landscapers to come in and dig proper drainage. Now, there were some drains there, but they were all clogged up and stuffed up. And so we actually have 3 drains throughout this field now. They all tie together underneath, and it runs out to the sewer the way it's supposed to. We've since put a swing set in, and we are actually rolling out and putting more of a pavilion this year, some grilling areas. We're going to put a dog park over there. So this whole area that we spent all that money on getting the field right, we're now going to be able to bring into the next level this year with some really great amenities and continue to make that a feature for this property. And now I got to say, like, the pride I feel when I go to that property and I see kids on the swings and playing on the slide, like, it's awesome. They love it. It's really heavily used. It's a good fit for this property, and glad that worked out. We took rents on our 2-bedroom units. Remember, I told you the previous owner was not pushing rents. 2-bedroom units were going for $559. We're now about $930 for that same unit after putting in all this work, right? So instead of that $250 rent bump, we're almost at $400 on our rent bumps. Really significant growth on the rents. We're not pushing rents. We're not the highest in the market. Mm-hmm. We're still right where we want to be. So we just actually did a refinance, and I'm going to tell you some of the stats here. So we had purchased this property for 18.5. It now appraised at over $35 million. 91% increase in value in 2 years. This property, multifamily properties are valued based on how much money they're making. So where you see what Vinny put there, our NOI increased in December. So the month after we closed on the property, we were income minus expenses. We're at $103,000. A year and a half later or so, by February of 23, $152,000. We grew NOI by almost 50%. Right?
That's raising rents over time, making the property more sticky, making the property more appealing to new tenants by painting the exteriors, doing the pool, doing nicer kitchen upgrades or whatever. This is what's possible, guys, on mid-sized multifamily when you roll your sleeves up and make real changes that attract new people that are willing to pay more. Not that we don't want people that are living there to live there. They remain living there, and a lot of them are willing to pay the new rent increases, because a lot of move-outs we had were people that either weren't paying the rent at all or people that were making bad decisions, aka drug dealers, living at the property. Now there's no crime problems at this property. We haven't gotten into the crime thing, but understand, you turn big lights on, and when you limb up the trees, crime can be seen real easy, and crime tends to not stick around when you do that.
Yeah. So with that amazing valuation, we were able to do a refinance. We returned 40% of capital back to our investors, and just really able to celebrate this win with our investors that, hey, little over 2 years later, they got 40% of their money back. They get to hold on to their equity in the deal. So they still have their ownership, but now they've got money back to go invest in something else or our next deal. Really excited. We're not done, by the way. I still have about 108 units that I have to renovate over the next year or so. We, as I said, are going to push the amenities further. This plan that we have is a multi-year plan. We've brought it to that first stage of like clearing out everything that was rough. Now we're at a really nice stable spot, but now we can start pushing and elevating and elevate it up. and we can bring in nicer amenities, additional amenities like a business center or a resident lounge, meeting space. We're going to push the grilling and other areas, dog park, just continuing to make this property more attractive as that market is growing and we're taking advantage of.
And this is, guys, this is what the long game of real estate looks like. Holding real estate longer term is going to be what really pays over the next, like, say, 5 to 10 years. And that's why Justin played the long game. I mean, he addressed, we're replacing roofs at this property, which if we're going to just flip it and sell it to somebody else, we're certainly not replacing roofs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to that point, Matt, coming out of this refi, so I told you my budget was $4.5 million. In the 2.5 years that we had it, we spent about $3.25 million so far. But so now I'm kind of resetting my budget for the next 5 years for this long term. I have $2.5 million that I'm going to spend over the next 5 years. And that's all the things that I mentioned. And roofing is a big part of it. We're going to do some more cleanup and maybe some fun things to the property, but we are not planning on flipping out of this because we're investing in the long term. Just like I said, the staircase, right? I could have just patched those stairs and gone for the quick fix. That might've been half the cost, but now I'd be struggling with that in the next year or two, right? I know that's done. I did it the right way. And that's what we're doing to this property. We're putting the right money in for the long term, thinking that we may hold this for another 10, 20 years or more. Who knows?
Yeah. Justin, as we wind it down here, like, what are your other takeaways that you got? Like, what lessons did this property teach you that you're going to convey to your team and to the next deal that we buy and to forward as DeRosa Group continues to grow?
When you're buying an asset like this of any size, you're buying a business. And so we approached this property like a business from day one. We had a very clear business plan. Everybody knew it. Everybody had a copy of it, what we're doing, where we're going, what I'm spending per unit, what my target rents are, and the plan has changed over time, but we started on the same footing, and our manager and our contractors and everyone started from the same page. The second thing is having extra reserves. Yeah. We came into this project because of COVID, we were nervous and everything. And we said, let's throw some extra money in for reserves. Best decision we ever made. My contingency was $450,000 on this project. We spent 300 of that 450 because we got hit with some big structural issues, got hit with some big plumbing repairs. This is not just smooth sailing. We had a lot of rocky mess along the way, but we had the money to weather the storm. Yeah. So having that strong contingency really helps you weather a lot of storms. And that's how I built my next budget too. Is like, I know very specifically where I'm going to spend, maybe like 1.6, 1.7 of that 2.5. And the rest is like, hey, we might have some major issue. We probably will have some major issue, but I've got the money in reserves. And so when that happens, I'll be prepared for it.
Yeah. Great lessons. Thank you. So guys, listen, it's been a great conversation. I hope you guys have gleaned some value. So thank you, Justin, for spending some time with us today. While we're here, this property right here is the one that you guys are going to tour if you decide to join us on the retreat. And so we got, like I said, a few tickets left. Justin, just real quick, what are some things that folks should look forward to on the asset management side? Those that have identified themselves as a hammer, what should they expect to learn on this retreat, this 2-day retreat we got coming up?
It's one thing to sit here and see me present it over 40 minutes in the photos. It's another thing to spend half a day with me and my team
walking it,
walking it, pointing out the issues, showing you the real issues that are still going on, the real challenges.
So guys, I hope you guys can join us in Winston-Salem. Like I said, there's a few early bird tickets left. I appreciate you, buddy. And Justin, thanks. Have a great rest of your day. Everybody have a great Friday, great weekend.